Okay, let's go over the first lesson plan, SRE lesson plan. Make sure your name is on the top of each. You don't need to put teacher candidate or this stuff. That's just for you. So consider this a lesson plan that you'd put in a teaching portfolio that looks professional. And don't overthink this. The purpose statement. Students will read and enjoy chapter blank of Stuart Little. That's it. That's the purpose. Students will read and enjoy. That is our purpose for doing this scaffolded reading experience lesson plan, SRE. Now it's scaffolded, meaning the pre-reading activity needs to create a scaffold in their head, in your student's head, so that they can read it independently. This is in fourth grade students, but you have to assume they're reading a grade, maybe 2 grades below level. So what can you do? The pre-reading activity that you are going to use, the story preview, you simply, it's like a movie preview, you present a preview of the story or chapter. However, in this case, you want to provide most of the salient elements that will be found, all except maybe 1 or 2. Why? Because this creates a scaffold of the story in their head to make reading easier. That's what an SRE lesson plan is, scaffolded reading experience. Create this lesson. Always leave a hook at the end. Read to find out what happens when. So this is just an example. This is not a fill in the blank sort of thing. In your head, you're going to make that professional decision. You're going to choose a chapter in the Stuart Little book, and you're going to say, okay, what are the important events? Almost all of them. And make the mistake of over-inclusion versus under-inclusion, because remember, this is a struggling reader. You do not want a reader to struggle. You're going to present most of the salient elements, and if it's a new character introduced, you probably need to have that. All right, the during reading, you have to describe exactly how students are going to read. You'll never, ever use round robin reading, so you'll simply say it's either silent reading or buddy reading at the 4th grade level. If we're doing our job correctly, if you provide a good enough scaffold, students should be able to read silently. They should be able to do this by themselves. However, buddy reading is a great technique. Sometimes it's called reciprocal reading, a little more complicated. Simply find a pair, find a spot in the room, and read every other paragraph to each other. Never pair up good reader to bad reader. Don't do that. You want to always, and never ask students to find a friend or a partner. That creates social pressure. We don't want that. So you will always have reading partners or reading buddies pre-assigned, and the list would be on the board or some such place. Assume that you could be able to hand this to another teacher and they would be able to replicate your lesson. That's the level of planning and thinking. So don't simply say silent reading. You would simply say students would open their books, they would be reading at their desk, or whatever information you think is necessary. All right. Now, post-reading activity, something to get them involved or interesting or engaged with the story. You could create a writing prompt or use some other post-reading activity described in this class. And I would encourage you to experiment with the writing prompt. I've inserted a video, but any activity described in the book in this class is good. Use list. Step 1, step 2, step 3. That allows you to see the structure and sequence of what you're doing. All right. That is the SRE lesson plan. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have. Send me an email.